Suman, shall I start?
Yes, Gadi. Yeah.
I call the 39th meeting of the Rotary year 23-24 to order. And welcome to everybody. I can see our prospective Rotarian also. And our speaker is already there. Welcome, sir. And welcome everybody. And may we have a 1 minute silence we can observe for the world of the peace of the world, right? Well, I request Club Secretary Suman to make her announcements. Suman, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Gargi. Hello, everyone. Good evening. This week, we have lots of birthdays and one wedding anniversary. I guess most of them are not here, but I will call out their names. To begin with, tomorrow, we have Nanda, who celebrates his birthday. We also have Vidya Shetty, who will be celebrating her birthday. Then on Saturday, March 30th, we have Uma and Ravi Kumar. Ravi, you're there. I see you. Uma and Ravi, they celebrate their wedding anniversary. Congratulations, Ravi. Is he there? Can't see him. And on Sunday, we have SV and we also have Raji Kittu. Both of them will be celebrating their birthdays. And on Monday, the next financial year, April 1st, we have Padmini Gokhale, who celebrates her birthday. And on April 3rd, which is Wednesday, we have Kishan Karmaya, who will be celebrating his birthday. So we wish all of them, Nanda, Vidya, Uma, Ravi, SV, Raji, Padmini, Kishan, the very best. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful year.
Long list.
Yes, for a change.
Yes.
And coming to the committee meetings, tomorrow, Friday, the international committee will meet. This meeting is being hosted by Swaroop Sridhar. And this will be hosted in one of the restaurants in Indranagar at 7:30 p.m. And on Saturday, we have the youth committee that will be meeting online on Zoom at 7:30 p.m. Before I hand over to Gadi, I have one announcement to make. This coming Saturday, we will be handing over 3 new dialysis machines to BKF. And we have this inaugural function to be held at BKF itself in the morning at 10:30 a.m. This is a request to all our members to kindly participate in that function. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, guys.
Yeah. Now, just I'll add to what Suman has already said, and your formal invitation to all the members are on the way. So Suman will be shortly posting it to the group. So all the details, probably what you'd like to know to reach there and the timing and the schedule, you will be finding it there. But all of us are looking forward to seeing everybody there. It's a momentous occasion for us. And 3 of our CSR donors have really been very kind to make this donation to offer them 3 machines. So please be there, and all of us will really appreciate and enjoy the time that everyone is present to this thing. Okay, thank you. Now, I'd request past President Shushila to introduce this evening's speaker.
Thank you, Gargi. It gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce a very good friend, Pradeep Dadlani. Pradeep shares 2 of my alma maters, FMS, where we both studied together. We did our MBA together, and BITS Pilani. Pradeep was in BITS Pilani way before I was. I did my PhD from there much later than he did, but nevertheless, we share that affiliation. Pradeep has always been working in the area of solid waste management. And we actually cannot find a better speaker for this month's last program, this month being the month in the Rotary calendar for water and sanitation. Okay, about Pradeep now, he's one of our most, the person who's kind of held our entire batch together. He reaches out to all of us, and he makes special efforts to make sure that our group stays together. If any of us visits Delhi, he is the one who makes sure that there is a party and a celebration. So he loves to celebrate, and he loves to have all of us participate in the celebration as well. I think I have reached out to him every time I wanted to go visit a wildlife sanctuary, and he's been more than helpful. But the reason for that is because he's been doing a lot for the environment, and one of the areas that he does a lot of work in is environmental audit of forests and wildlife reserves. He has, and the other thing is that, just talking to him, I have learned so much about waste and the kind of nonsense that we do. But then the good thing is, while the rest of us complain, he has been doing something about it. And today we are going to hear from him about a lot of the innovations that he and his team have been doing. He has constantly championed the area of solid waste management at a time when the awareness around solid waste management, why it's important, what is its impact, what can be done about it. He was one of those who said, I'm jolly well going to do something about it, and stepped in. So he's been running his own organization for, I think, 30 odd years. And, the organization has had a lot of recognition. So he's been empaneled by World Bank and ADB and all the other multilateral and bilateral organizations. They've done a lot of work around providing policy support, providing inputs and papers and so on. So they've done some fabulous work. And the rest of his biodata is available online. You can check it out. But Pradeep, I'm particularly thankful to you for having accepted doing this at very, very short notice. And I'm sure we are all going to be very enriched by today's discussion with Pradeep. And again, thanks, Pradeep, and over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sushila, and thanks for your kind words, which whether I deserve or not, I really don't know, but I'll try to, and also I think the relevance of the topic, apart from it being the month for waste, the sanitation, the month for the Rotary Club, it is also on Saturday we have International Day of the Zero Waste, which is being celebrated. We have, in fact, I personally have a lot of engagements in Delhi, so it's very relevant and topical. An appropriate day to have this kind of interaction. So if you permit me, I'll share. I have a presentation. I'll share that, and then I'll quickly go through it because it's mostly in illustrative form and highlighting 3 main areas. 1 second. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, is it visible?
Yeah, Dadu, it's available. It's
Yes.
visible.
Yeah, so I would be focusing on three main areas which I thought affects us, as citizens of the country. One is the source segregation of waste, which is our duty, and also in terms of compliance with the waste management rules, it is a requirement. Collection and transportation also, because the primary collection, secondary collection, and then transportation, we are affected by it in a way because municipal solid waste is the most visible form of pollution, which there may be air pollution, there could be the quantum of MSW is almost same as the quantity of fly ash generated in the country. But we don't have fly ash as a major problem. Municipal solid waste is visible everywhere. It's in our backyard, it's in front of our house, it's on the streets. So this segregation is an important topic. Then collection and transportation. And one small point I thought I'll touch is marine litter. And what are the innovations happening? We've been working on a project on marine litter for almost 2.5 years with GIZ, at focusing on three areas, three geographical regions: Andaman Nicobar, Port Blair, Kochi, and Kanpur. So, this is, I need not explain this. We are all aware of how the primary collection of waste happens, how the secondary storage is kept in the open spaces. You go to any city, be it Bengaluru, Delhi, Gurgaon, it's the same. And how the disposal of unsegregated waste at the landfills happens, and manual loading and unhygienic transportation in open vehicles. So what is source segregation? It is the practice it's a practice for different types of waste materials at the point of origin. You segregate it at the household level or commercial establishment. It could be educational institute or medical institutions, the general waste there. There are separate rules for biomedical waste, which are treated separately, collected, transported, processed, and disposed of in a different manner in compliance with the biomedical waste rules. But for municipal solid waste, the garbage, as we commonly refer to, the segregation is important. Be it the office we work at, the teaching, if you're teaching at some institute, or the market areas, movie halls, or the household. There are some regulations or rules which are, I'll just pass this, the three or four things which we need to know about. One is the Solid Waste Management Rules 2016. There have been some amendments to this later on. Swachh Bharat Mission SBM 2.0. This started in 2020. And this focuses more on the innovative solutions, moving away from collection and transportation, more to the issues like the legacy waste management, bioremediation, material recovery facilities, digitalization, then decentralized composting, etc., and transfer stations. Extended producer responsibility. Now, this is again being made part of for e-waste and plastic waste, for which there are separate rules. Plastic waste is a part of MSW, but there are separate rules governing it. So the extended producer responsibility means the source of that packaging, for example, the Coca-Cola empty bottles. So it is the responsibility of the producer, the Coca-Cola company, to see that the disposal is done in compliance with the existing rules. So this plastic waste management rules, I don't know how many of us really have this at our homes. We do wet and dry waste, yes. But the domestic hazardous waste also has to be segregated. And there should be separate collection systems, because the wet waste or the biodegradable waste has to be collected daily as per the rules, SWM rules 2016. Dry waste can be stored up to about a week's time, And domestic hazardous waste, which would include diapers, etc., that has to be done by a different agency separately. So these are the broadly, but the very few of us, even at my home, domestic hazardous waste, we normally tend to, mix it. And we really, but this is what is required from all of us as citizens of the country. So these are the types. I think we are quite aware of what is a wet biodegradable waste, dry non-biodegradable waste, which is a little more complicated because the shelf life for this, especially the plastics, is sometimes runs into millions of years. Biodegradable waste would eventually decompose. So it is a short-term pollutant, I would say, but the non-biodegradable waste, especially the plastics, have a major bearing on the, I'll be covering this in the marine later slide also, how difficult it is making the life for the aquatic life, the whether it be it sharks or fish or other, so how it is affecting, and there are and how it is finding its way to, through the what we throw on the streets eventually, especially the plastics. And if it is non-recyclable variety, single-use plastic, though these are banned, but still there are some street hawker may give you as a packaging material which is legally banned, but still it's being used. And the rejects and the hazardous waste, sanitary waste mainly, and also sometimes the biomedical waste in smaller, that also gets the bandages we use. So that is also, it is a domestic hazardous waste. The quantities are small, but it does require a separate, the segregation is important for this also. These are some models, just illustrative models. You can see some from the south, some posters we had developed. We had developed these trolleys. On the bottom, you can see Sukha Kuda and Gila Kuda. Very simple kind of a thing. We did a project for UNDP. Then there are case studies from south, how the two-color bins are being used, are being given to the distributed to the residents. Then there are compartmentalized vehicles for the dry waste and the wet waste. And this is a good practice. And tricycles for collecting the fallen waste. Then there are different cities, there are models. We try to capture it all, so that we understand what all is happening. There are some innovations. One is the compliance part, other is the innovation going beyond the compliance. For example, in Panaji, there are 16 different types of bins and bags for different types of waste. I've seen it in Coimbatore also, which is among the, one of the top, they always get one of the top ranked cities under the Swachh Sarvekshan. And they also have a similar system at these secondary collection centers. So this is, IEC is very much part of it. There are, different terms have been given in Gurugram. They have this Alag Karo initiative. So they have three on the tricycle. They have 3 types of bins, which basically segregate. They collect the segregated waste and then take it to the secondary storage centers or put onto the vehicles for the collection. I'll be covering that in the next few slides. So the important ingredients are campaigning, governance, which is important because we always fail on governance. India was among the first countries, apart from Denmark, to bring in environmental regulations way back in 1986-87. Even USA, because USA is more decentralized, they have state level, environmental regulations. At the country level, India and Denmark were among the first countries, but we always, when it comes to enforcing the regulations, it's a little tardy and we always fail there. Public awareness, a lot of good work is being done by NGOs, by ULBs, urban local bodies, training programs. We've been doing a lot of training programs for sanitary workers, for the community, for the elected representatives, because they are also not aware of this. They are keen to learn about it, but I mean, obviously they do attend the government meetings and all that, but they would like to know how actually they have to govern help in governance of this system, municipal solid waste management system. Some of the best practices. So there is a forum of cities that segregate. It was launched in December 2017, and you will see Bengaluru, also part of it. And these are the cities who have who are trying to ensure. Again, this is what the objective is. But living in Bengaluru, you would know probably better. But this is what uh, the target was, and most of them have reached. The objective to adopt 100% source segregation. So it includes Indore, which is a well-known. I mean, they probably the fifth year they were the #1 city in self-survection. And of course, we have other cities also. Bobili is there, Trivandrum is there, and Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, etc. Mostly you will see it's it's in the south. North, the situation is comparatively worse, unfortunately. There have been some campaigns. So Hindustan Lever, then Catch, they just as an illustration, basically to bring about behavioral changes. Some corporates are also doing some good campaigns, and this is just to illustrate how the segregation of waste. Then there are Chennai, for example, some comedian. Then there is a robotic, Tamil. One second, yeah. So there are street plays happening, the segregated waste being put in different compartments of a vehicle. And also what we have observed that under the smart cities project also, though this is not a core area, it's mostly on street lighting and infrastructure and other things, but they have sort of, the ULB, and smart city is not exactly the boundaries of ULB. It could be different, the boundary of a smart city, but they are trying to take advantage of the funds available there and, improve the collection and transportation systems. So in the SBM 1.0, Swachh Bharat Mission 1.0, which was launched on October 2nd, 2014, the focus was on collection and transportation. So what happened that ULBs ended up, buying a lot of vehicles and bins, secondary bins, etc. But the end solution was not targeted. In SBM 2.0, so the funding is available, and we have helped Manipur state, 26 of their urban local bodies, to get funding under SPM 2.0. So there the funding is available for material recovery facility for plastics and other dry waste, then decentralized composting, legacy waste, which is a major issue. Bangalore, I'm sure it must be in Delhi, we have this major issue, Gazipur landfill site. They are notorious, places with it's like a big mountain with 40-meter height and things like that. So, and really very harmful, bad conditions, and you see the workers working. So all this has been, going on. These are some of the innovations, IoT-enabled smart bins. This I have seen, observed. And these are, of course, the trommels. They're used more at the for waste segregation and with sensors and robotics, and also in the legacy waste management. IoT-enabled smart bins, mobile applications, and online platforms. So there is a app developed. We were also part of that team for MoHUA, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. It is being demonstrated now as a pilot in 8 cities, including Shimla, Panaji, Chandigarh, Kanpur, and few other cities. So basically, it's a kind of a digital platform where the entire waste management, especially the dry waste, that is focusing more on the dry waste, because that is a main area of concern. So this has been, it's a test case which is happening, the pilot experimental stage, I would say, but it will be launched all over India. So these are some of these are I mean, some of these were requirements for compliance, but in some cases, the innovators, the ULBs themselves, there are a lot of research institutes. IIT Kanpur, I know they're doing a lot of work in this area, and since we work in Kanpur, we are aware of what, they are collaborating with the urban local body and developing better solutions for this. So all this is happening, but still long way to go. So this one is on collection and transportation. And here we'll quickly try to understand what is CNT, we call it, in our parlance. What are the models, some best practices? What is the few? Why I'm touching collection and transportation also is because it is also directly, we see the vehicles, the trolleys passing by, then being stored, secondary storage bins or dhalaus, as we call it in North India, from where the waste is probably very close to our house also, some of these may be located. So how this is happening, so it concerns us. And there are spillovers from the secondary storage bins and a lot of things, which keep happening. So this is also in our domain. I'm not touching the processing and the disposal technology because there are a lot of sanitary landfill. It would have been very big presentation. I can share the presentation if somebody is interested, but that is a totally different. That brings in the large corporates, like you have Ramkeys and Anthony Waste and all who do the projects on a turnkey basis, especially on processing and disposal technologies. So these are some of the areas. So lack of segregation at source, it is linked to that. Because of that, the other day I was talking to Sushila, she told me that it is segregated at the household level, in the gated complexes. But then when the vehicle comes, the ULB vehicles, it gets mixed up again. Which is a major problem in all the cities. Even as a good citizen, I understand the rules. I may be segregating the waste, but then the vehicle which comes, it could be a public PPP, collection and transportation agent, public-private partnership operating under the PPP model, or even the urban local body themselves when they are collecting. So it may still get mixed up. Mismatch of primary collection equipment and secondary storage bins. So this is very, I mean, I've been seeing this for many years. So sometimes the hand carts, their height, the bins, the secondary bins, which they are supposed to put the waste in after doing the primary collection, their height is more than the carts they are carrying. So finally, it is put there on the road only. So it goes for a 6. The entire the storage bins and the collection system. So these are very small things which we don't observe sometimes, or we don't try to plan at the let's say at the state level or at the ULB level. So, but this is a practical problem. Some of these illustrations you can see. And open vehicle. So the rule says that it has to be transported in a closed vehicle, the waste being collected. But they don't have, they still do it in open vehicles. Sometimes they hire private vehicles, they don't have vehicles of their own. And the rules are not strictly enforced. And so this is also a problem area. Routing plan. There's nothing like routing plan. They have some municipal councillor will call up the sanitary engineer or the executive engineer or a junior engineer and ask him कि भाई वहाँ पे आप आ जाइए ward number 9 में the people are complaining, so please send 2 vehicles right away. So the whole routing plan goes for. They have a plan. They're trying to make it more systematic, but still it's not very efficient. Most of the ULB. These are generic terms I'm using here. There have been some case studies, even the cities where we have worked, there have been some good examples also. But these are some of the problems which define this collection and transportation system in general. Accessibility to waste generation point or secondary storage. So, one is the larger vehicles and sometimes even the small. Varanasi is a one critical, we did our first DPR on waste management for Varanasi, Gorakhpur and Allahabad. This was way back in 97, when even the rules were not there, MSW rules, SWM rules. So 2000, the first rules were notified in 2000. So when we realized that a vehicle cannot enter those bylanes and the narrow streets of Varanasi. So there was no question of proper collection and all. And, it was a very, even today, So they have tried to, they have made those secondary storage bins at the points where the vehicle can come and things like that. But still it's an issue. Lack of training and capacity building. This is one, it is not that you have one training program for everybody, be it engineers or sanitary workers or sanitary inspectors. It has to be dovetailed, specific to the requirements. So we do a lot of this capacity building, need assessment, training need assessment, and then we recently developed something on material recovery facility, how the operators should be trained. Elected representatives I mentioned because they are also very keen to be trained on this, the community at large and things like that. So this is one area where we are lacking. And no use of PPE. Even though there is a provision, the workers are given personal protective equipment, they will give it to their daughters or sons, the boots, everything, and they won't use it. I've seen them handling with, with hands, without having any cover, and it is, and sometimes you have those syringes and sharps also mixed with the municipal solid waste, and it is really a major problem for the informal sector which is engaged in this. So primary collection, secondary collection, I won't get into details of this, and the transportation. Broadly, this is how the system works. So there are intermediate points. Now, because the cities became larger, the disposal sites of the processing plants also were getting extended, getting beyond the old dumping grounds, as they used to be called. They got filled up with legacy waste, which is a problem which we are trying to address now. That is a different matter. So you require intermediate transfer stations where maybe the smaller vehicles come, and using a ramp facility, they can put it onto the larger compactors or the bigger vehicles, and then take it to the final site for processing and disposal. So this is one illustration. Or the stationary compactor transfer stations also are in use in larger cities which have at least 300 to 400 tons per day. That means a population of typically about 10 lakhs or so, because the per capita waste generation varies between 300 grams to 400 grams per day. These are some rules which we should be aware of. As I mentioned, solid waste management rules 2016. This is like a Bible or the Gita. There have been some amendments to this in last 7-8 years. But these are the highlights: door-to-door collection, safe storage and transportation, covered secondary storage facility. Then there are provisions for where should the sanitary landfill site be located, how the legacy waste has to be remediated or bioremediated, etc. Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0. There was a Swachh Bharat Mission 1.0 earlier, which ended in 2019, and this one started in 2020. And there is, as I mentioned, it's more on the end applications for this, rather than the primary collection, secondary collection, etc. Plastic waste management, which is very critical. There's a new amendment now in 2000. We all know single-use plastics have been banned, but there are issues which have now come in the extended producer responsibility. So this is very, very important. So this was the last amendment which came in. So there's a time frame available now to the producers, be it printing machines or your injection molding or safari bags, for example, or Coke, Nestle, whichever company. But mostly it is the packaging material which is more critical. So they are responsible. So there are authorized recyclers, and all this has to be done on a portal which is run by CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board. So they are now trying to enforce it, and there are plastic credits associated with this, which one can buy. So a company like Coca-Cola, if they're not able to meet their targets, as laid down in the plastic waste management rules, will buy plastic credits from some other company which is able to you recycle the plastic waste and convert it to a resource or any other form of conversion. I thought I'll just mention this Karnataka Solid Waste Management Policy. This is your latest policy, unless there have been some recent amendments, I don't know, but to the best of my knowledge. So, good policy. In fact, we done work in Tippur, Shimoga, and Bellary, very small towns in Karnataka, and also did some work in Bengaluru way back, a NORAD project where Terry and CE were involved. That time, 1999, 2000. Yeah. So the binless system, I don't know whether it is still being practiced, was the initial, I would say the first state to go for that binless system was Karnataka. I don't know how effective it is. And the other aspects, Karnataka Compost Corporation, they're doing a good job, but they had their own problems. But generally, Bengaluru, because the growth rates have been so high, especially Bengaluru city, and now even Mysuru and some other cities, there is a major problem there, as I understand. So there have been, even the primary collection models, the vehicles to be used. These are some of the illustrations: hand carts or tricycles with hydraulic tipping. Then mini trucks with bins, mini trucks with hydraulic tipping containers. So these are some of the points which have to be borne in mind. I'm not getting into the details. This is more for the planning stage, but this is just to know what kind of systems are now being used. And many of these ULBs have now, they are evolving and they're getting into a better collection system, better use of better equipment, even the timing, when you should be collecting the waste. We are doing some work in Port Blair. We were told that it's a fisherman colony, so they all, start early morning, 6 o'clock. They go to high seas and then come back, or even the nearby areas for fishing. So the best time would be afternoon. The women also go and drop their children. So all these things are now getting incorporated in the plans. So this is for the secondary collection, some of the vehicles, binless city criteria which I mentioned. There are some other illustration, tipper trucks, Ahmedabad, it's called Swachhta Jan model with GPS system. So this is important because there used to be complaints that the vehicles, they collect the waste and then they're not to be seen for many hours. And then you see the waste being dumped on the side of some, low-lying area or things like that. There was always this private agency. So now they have to be, there's a requirement. These have to be fitted with GPS system. So it is monitored at the head office level, the ULB office level. And I've seen this in Vijayawada being done very efficiently. And yeah, so this is one good innovation and which helps to make it more efficient. And also any deviation, especially it's not left to the whims and fancies of the driver or the private operator to dump it anywhere, and also be more efficient. Compartmentalized vehicles for collection of, this is different types. I mean, we have seen this dry waste, but this is from Indore, the #1 city in the country. Their top, illustration. Then Bhopal, which is also among the top 5 cities. I think they were number 3 or 4 this time also. So there are some good practice, like transfer stations are instructed to accept only segregated waste. And the spatial cell monitors the GPS. So these are penalties. Penalties are very important, equally important. And there are penalties on paper, but they are not imposed, never imposed. So that is another issue which is tormenting the public at large. Yeah, this is from Ambikapur, again a green city, if you can call it, in Chhattisgarh. They won many awards. They were a dynamic IS lady officer who won many national awards. I'm forgetting her name. And they they are also among the top 5 or 6 cities in Swachh Survekshan. They're using e-rickshaws and they have a e-charging system within that premises of the urban rental body. So they're very efficiently done. Some of other best practices. So of course, the IEC, the community participation, and then optimization of routes. These are some of the areas. Shimla, for example, we worked in Shimla for the World Bank earlier, and they have, because the hilly terrain, the cost and the operational difficulties are on a different level, totally different level in the hilly regions. We worked in Nainital, Shillong, and Shimla, and also in Katra. So there the problems are different, and the costs per ton of waste collected, processed, and disposed of. If there was a norm, it is almost 2.5 to 3 times than let's say a city like Bengaluru or Delhi, because of the hilly terrain, the time taken, comparatively smaller, widespread population geographically. So yeah. There are advanced waste collection and transportation mechanisms. These are the ones which you, I mean, there's some, and then there's street sweeping, which is happening now. I think Bengaluru also, I'm sure there are, Delhi, it's very common now. IoT enabled waste collection vehicles would signal if the drivers are deviating from the route plan. Also, it is, with the GPS also, you can keep a track. Then the mobile applications for, it is called Sansadhan, I think. There's a mobile app which has been developed at the ministry level, which is being experimented now. And you keep a track on all the aspects of waste management. Route optimization, this is the large private operators, because the private sector operators like Ramkeys, again taking names, two names, Anthony Waste and few others. So they have, being a private organization and being more responsible, and the payments being linked to their efficiency, and so they have done this quite effectively now in some of the pockets of the city, if not the entire city, wherever they are working. Yeah, but this is one big requirement, the route optimization, and use of PPE equipment for waste collection and transportation. So the points to ponder: the contracts are also, not up to the mark. When there's a PPP for the contract, they're not really, done properly, and there's just a kind of a letter issued by ULB. So we have been discussing this. Yes, sir, you have a question? Wing Commander Sabarwal? Please come in.
No, it was pressed by mistake. Sorry. Please
Okay,
continue.
okay. No, you can always ask questions. I'll be finishing another 5 minutes, then you can have. So linkages with the processing centers such as material recovery facilities, decentralized composting plants, transfer stations. This is important. Sometimes the linkages are not very clear, so वो साउथ दिल्ली के वार्ड में कलेक्शन हो रहा है, जा रहा है नॉर्थ दिल्ली के वार्ड में, for the MR. I mean, these kind of things keep happening in all over. Separate collection mechanism for bulk waste generators, capacity building for, I mean, this is very critical for everybody, all the stakeholders, informal sector, sanitation workers, ULB officials, elected representatives, mechanism for optimum user fees for waste collection. We are still very, there are ULBs who have linked the SWM fees, it's included in their, incorporated in their property tax. Ahmedabad is one example. Gujarat has done it very successfully. But at other places, we may be spending 500 rupees on a pizza, but if they ask us the door-to-door collection, we may be still unwilling to pay 100 rupees to the informal sector worker. I have seen this, I've experienced this. Even in Delhi, there's some very, high-end colonies, they don't tend to pay, because for them, that money doesn't, they feel it has no use, 100 rupees. So, but in the middle class households and all, they are willing to pay 100, 150, we are paying 200 rupees also. But there has to be a mechanism. So this is part of their the regulation which the ULB has to bring about, if there is a separate fees involved. Schedule and timing of waste collection, this is important. So there is a we all know now there is a system where there's a the collection vehicles, when it comes, it has some music playing or some song in Tamil. I've seen this happening in Port Blair, also in Shillong. You know, so that the residents know, and they Shillong particularly, they have this, because it can't go to every nook and corner. They have these predetermined positions where the vehicle will come and stop, and they वो फिर वो घंटी बजाते हैं वहाँ पे, and the people can come and drop their waste there. Accessibility of adequate vehicles to waste generation source. These are some of the points which we try to. Marine litter, I thought, is important to understand that the plastic waste, especially, as I mentioned earlier, biodegradable waste gets decomposed. There are other problems and other issues, and there are health related issues, of course. But this plastic is one major issue, so which the shelf life or the life of that, if it is not disposed of properly, could be lakhs of years or millions of years. And unfortunately, most of it, which is not recycled or which is not recyclable, finds its way as a marine litter through the drains, through, like in Kanpur, typically it gets into Ganga River, then from there to Bay of Bengal, and this happens, and over 11 million tons of new plastic enters the ocean every year, equivalent to dumping of a garbage truck of plastic into the ocean every minute. The present figure is about 152 million tons. And you can imagine every year we are adding another 11, 12 million tons. And in few years, the quantum of plastic waste in the oceans, in the sea, the marine environment would far outweigh the total weight of the living organisms, be it fish, sharks, seahorse. High population density, growing middle class, bustling economic activity. So obviously it's linked to high levels of consumption and plastic pollution. We are all aware of it. Approximately 80% of plastic waste is derived from land-based sources and 60% from urban centers. India, we are comparatively in a sweet spot because we have a very good recycling infrastructure. Almost 60% of our plastic waste is recycled, which is probably among the best in the world. But still that remaining 40% is an issue, because we have this informal sector, kabadi walas, the recycling plants, and now with the EPR coming in, even the corporates have become part of it. But still, that typically what happens is, out of 100 tons of waste, 55 to 60% is biodegradable waste, 40% is dry waste. Plastics would be about 15%. Of this 15%, 9% is recycled. But that 6% of plastics of the total, I'm saying, of the total municipal solid waste is a major issue. So it finds its way into the marine ecosystems. So what we had tried to do as part of our study, we had tried to identify the hotspots for example, in Kochi, the fort area is one of the hotspots, and the one near the stadium, it's called, I think, Rajiv Gandhi Stadium. So there are some, drains there. So we identified 3 hotspots, try to work there, try to educate the community there. And similarly in Kanpur also, as part of this larger marine waste project. So I just thought I'll include plastics also. And you'll see most favored option is reduction. So we should try to, reduce the use of plastics. That is the first option. Then reuse through recycling and everything. We use the same thing again. Recycle. If it still goes out as a waste, try to recycle it or recover it, or disposal. Disposal should be the last option. So digitization and linkages with recycling markets. Sansadhan portal. This is what I was referring to. They are trying to, this will be launched pan-India very soon, in next 6 months to 1 year. and it will have a linkage to all the plastic waste in each of the cities. We have more than 4,500 ULBs. At least the top 500 to 700 would be covered in next 2 to 3 years, hopefully. So this is the same illustration: reduce, reuse, recycle, recovery, landfill. Thank you. I hope I haven't taken too much of time. There are too many slides, but yeah.
Well,
Yeah, can you show the previous slide, the the one before the last one?
The last, okay, the last but one slide.
Yes, yes.
Okay, just give me one second.
That's-
One second. Can you see the screen? I'm not able to. One second.
actually, we have the Q&A session also. Anybody who would like to ask a question, please get ready.
Yeah, so one second.
Sabi, would you like to ask anything? Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Okay. Deep, it was an excellent exposition. Learned a few more things. My only question is, when the corporates have 2% CSR contributions in various areas, is this waste management also covered in that?
Yes, sanitation is part of the 7 major, areas, and this is linked to sanitation.
Okay,
But it
thank you.
can't be done, for example, Infosys campus. If they are doing something within the campus, it is not CSR. But if they are doing something for the community, like Maruti has adopted a village where they are bringing in sanitation measures, it includes a lot of other things also, but waste management is also an integral part of it. So that, yes, so those funds can be used as CSR funds, and your CSR budget can incorporate the funding for any initiative taken on that front.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have got a it's a basic actually query. All your presentation, I saw that most of the vehicles for this waste management are covered one, closed one. Ideally, it should be. But here in Bangalore, I'm sure all of us are mostly Bangalore based. So the vehicles are not properly covered. And half the time, like the way they carry, you will find, it's causing more health issues than anything else.
Yes.
So what do you think the reason for it? Because I found that Indore and Jabalpur, those areas, those cities are much smaller cities, if they can manage it so well, what do you think is lacking? Probably, let me talk about the proper urban Bangalore only. I'm not even going to the suburbs and all.
No, it is a problem, but now with the, the funding window being made available, and also with PPP projects coming in, because if a private operator is, normally it is being done by private operators now. So there is a separate tender for it. There are 5 or 6 major players. There are not too many actually in this. I can name only 3 or 4, but there are not more than 6 or 7 major operators in collection and transportation. So they have to use these closed vehicles, and even if a ULB is doing it on, there is a funding window available. There are other, for smaller towns. There used to be a scheme called UID SSMT, and under 15th Finance Commission also there is a funding available. Earlier there used to be JNURM, but what happens is sometimes there is a requirement. For example, there is some Mela or something, some Diwali Mela or some. So sometimes these additional vehicles are put into, they on a, just to clear up the thing, and they get the additional vehicles from smaller operators apart from the regular fleet of vehicles. There are some issues there, but it is a problem because there is a spillage, Then the health issues. I've worked in Chennai on a solid waste management project. They were trying to develop a new, the existing, I think it is called Periambadur, or if I remember the name correctly, this was in 2012-13. So they had to cross the vehicles used to dump the waste there. It was a dumping ground. Then it used to pass through a village kind of a, it was semi-rural, semi-urban kind of a thing, place. They were spilling this on open vehicles. Then it became very political, and that route was closed. The entire project got delayed. They were to recover the legacy waste and things like that. So these are practical problems. The uncovered vehicles are sometimes used, though it is totally illegal now, and they're not supposed to use it. And if you see any such things, you should report it to the ULB. Yeah, Sushila.
Yeah.
Pradeep,
Shushila, just one sec. Can
yeah, sure.
may I request for a 10 minutes extension, please?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When you talk of marine litter, is the litter that goes into lakes also considered part of that?
Yes, that is also.
Because that's a big problem for us in
Yes.
Bangalore.
Yes. Even, what happens, Sushila, that, this fishermen, when they get into the sea, high seas and all that. So what happens, they're fishing nets. They're mostly Chinese, nets, all plastic, obviously. And government is giving subsidy if you buy new nets, almost 75%. So it's an incentive. They don't bother, they just throw it. They don't even try to recycle it. So in Port Blair, we're trying to do this recycling of nets, the plastic nets, because there's a big community involved in fishing community, which goes to they have their vessels, and they get into the high seas. They go for 10 days and come back, and the nets typically after 1 or 2 visits it gives away, and then they just throw it because they know they are getting subsidy. Good to get new. So we are trying to recover those things and set up a facility there to have this, do a recycling for that, basically.
And what about lakes in cities like Bangalore, which are
Yes,
heavily dependent on lakes for
yeah,
our
they're also the same, because it affects the marine life. I'm sure the aquatic,
Yes.
living beings, they are getting affected because we are throwing plastic bags and even papers, everything into the lakes. I mean, and even if it is, sometimes what happens is it is put on the street, but it, swept away into the lake. They don't collect it properly. Practically, this is what happens. Nainital Lake is a classic example, which I'm aware of. We worked in Nainital also many years ago, so this was a problem.
So is there a waste
Yes,
collection?
so there is, you have to, it requires different kind of a effort through IEC, community, NGO. In Port Blair, in the fishermen's colony, we had initiated this, and then you collect, and there were, you won't believe it, in a small place like Port Blair, in one of the almost 690 kg of plastic waste was collected at one go in one day. Second day, so about 2-3 tons of plastic waste was collected without using any major equipment, just going on a small vessel covering. And so there is it's a big thing. And there are issues, other types of issues also. There are in Port, it's not related to what you asked, but let me just share this. In Port Blair, what happened while we were working, when we went to the beach area, lot of these Coca-Cola bottles, other containers, etc., they were made in Thailand or Indonesia, because these cruises are passing by, they throw it in the high seas, it eventually gets to the shore. And that is one major problem. So if you collect we collected some samples. The origin, and I mean, India, they are polluting India, and I mean, without any, for which we are not responsible, but so they are trying to build up some kind of a responsible, even in G20 summit, this issue was raised, how to tackle this issue. But lakes, yes, because there's a more decentralized kind of a marine ecosystem. It's more of a local thing which has to be done. But it has to be done, with the efforts of the NGOs, maybe and also linkages with the MRF. If there is going to be some value for this plastic which is collected with the material recovery facility, or a large kabadi wala, for example, if it is collected in tons or let's say hundreds of kg, then there would some economic value also. Then the informal sector can be used but that is the only way. I mean, there's no other way.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So after this waste is segregated, it just goes to the landfill, or is there any new managing any other system for disposing this?
So I was referring to segregation at source of generation. And then there is a primary collection when it is collected from the household. Then it goes to a bin. Typically, I'm telling you a very typical example. Secondary storage could be an open area also. This is just for the vehicle to know that yes, waste has to be collected from here. Or it could be a covered storage bin, or it could be a dhalao, which is a cemented kind of in North we call it dhalao. So the vehicle would come there, and then the transportation starts. Then it goes to the processing site. It is supposed to be so segregated waste. Either then there are integrated waste management projects, like there are big players in this. Jindals are there, then Ramkeys are there, then there are a few other companies. There are again 8 or 10 players in the Anthony Waste is there, and some of them are listed companies. So they Nupur Recycling, I can remember a few names. So then the biodegradable waste, typically the technologies available are either composting. Within composting also you have vermicomposting, pit composting, aerobic composting, etc. Or it could be biomethanation. Biomethanation is a process where compost is just a byproduct, but you're generating gas which could you can generate power from that. And it is very successful in the industrial waste sector, paper and pulp industry waste, liquor waste, they have to do this. Then biomass also is another. There are CNG plants, CBG plants, compressed biogas. That is another new thing which is happening. The Honorable Minister, Mr. Gadkari, he has been focusing on this. We are working on a World Bank project on this compressed biogas. So, and then the final thing is disposal. Disposal is to be done in a sanitary landfill, for which again there are a lot of technical specifications and how you have to, how much area, how much below the ground you can go to start and how the HDP layer has to be put in after every day. You have to, it's all covered with the HDP thing, and then you have to have a clay cover for every day, and then how this finally they have to be it has to be settled. And in the reclamation, then you can have this. There are cities. There's one city where I work. This is Y. Rajshekhar Reddy's town. I'm forgetting the name in Andhra Pradesh. So they had recovered that, dumping ground, converted to a useful, made it a kind of a picnic spot and some other area called. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of that place.
Kadapa, is it Kadapa?
Kadapa, yeah.
Please share your contact information. I would like to pass it on to my son. He's developing an app for monitoring litter management by the citizens. The app is the input for the app is given by the people.
Okay.
Something like that.
No, there are a lot of informal sector groups who are also using apps. Kabadi Wala in Delhi, we have 2-3 such things. You can just contact them anytime, they'll come and they'll pay you for the waste also, which is good.
But can you share the last 2 slides?
I'll send it to you, Kyle. I'll send it.
Okay. So Sheila has my phone.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I have a question?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. It's quite complex, and the magnitude of the scale is amazingly complex. So thank you for enlightening us on this. I have one question which is related to, as you said, no, the best solution is to reduce. But at the manufacturing level, the packaging level, people still use a lot of plastic wrappers. They use cardboard boxes unnecessary when there is a inside container is pretty good in terms of handling the spillage or whatever that is. So why there is no regulation towards that? Because I heard in some of the countries there was a movement by the buyers itself that they will not buy anything which has this unnecessary wrappers put. It's one of the Scandinavian countries, I believe. So do we have any regulation towards this?
No specific regulations except for the generic ones. We have now, like bamboo toothbrushes coming in, and, of course, the single-use plastics have been banned. So even your plastic straws and all, they are actually totally banned. Your carry bags and all them. And even the bags, the larger bags, they have to be of minimum thickness. So there are those kind of regulatory things, but it's more voluntary, especially like for example, Amazon, it's one of the big I mean, they'll use 10 different types of packaging, make it little really complicated in that sense. They in fact they do buy a lot of plastic credits from others, just to होता है ना अपना पाप धोने के लिए वो उनसे लेते हैं. So, but this is a problem. Yes, it is a problem still, though there are no specific regulations on this. There are very general kind of observations in the rules also, but then they are responsible for it. So the producer is responsible for the waste, which is like Tetra Pak is responsible. So they have this authorized recyclers. Same thing is for the plastic waste and for the e-waste also now. HP, their computer, they are responsible for the safe disposal of the, once it is end of life for that laptop or the computer, in compliance with the e-waste management rules. It should be done properly, and they get a certificate from the authorized recycler. Same thing, so here it has started recently. The EPR thing has come in recently for plastic waste and, mainly for the plastic waste. But for e-waste, it was there since been there for last 6, 7, 8 years actually. So there is a time-bound thing, so they are getting more sensitive to it, and now it is being monitored also because they have to mention all this, they give the targets, and every year how much compliance they are. So they have been given targets. First year 30%, 70%, 80%. They have to, So all those things are mentioned. There are formats available. So it is all inputted onto a main board, which is managed by CPCB. So these are some new things which are happening, but the impact would come in next 2 to 3 years, I would say.
Thank you.
I guess there's no more question because the subject is such, there's no end to it. You keep on asking various aspects of it. Anyone has got anything to ask now? And of course, contact, I guess, Shushila, you can share with.
I'll share my presentation with Sushila, and if somebody.
Yeah, please, that will be nice.
It's just the kind of the work we have been doing, from there we try to take out something, but
yes,
there are a lot of knowledge to be, which we are just scratching the surface of the knowledge, and but there is a lot to learn also.
Right. Okay. May I now request Madhu to give a vote of thanks, please?
Sure, Gargi. So in Bangalore, I think for past 30, 35 years, segregation has been happening. However, we still have to learn and implement this in a systematic way. And while we do segregate waste, again, we find that it is mixed when it is being transported. So there's always a long way to go in this area. And of the 3R mantra, reduce, reuse, and recycle, probably the one we should focus on the most is to reduce. And but our current purchasing practices don't support that, especially buying online. It adds to so much massive amounts of packaging waste. So there is, as I said, a long way to go. But in this situation, any form of awareness and information on this topic is always welcome. So we appreciate you, Pradeep ji, for making time and sharing your, so much information with us. So thank you.
Thank you so
We
much.
also, yeah, we also thank our guest today, Girish, who has joined and who will soon join Rotary. So that's it from us.
Okay, thank
you.
Bye.
I hope I haven't taken too much of time.
No,
Thanks.
it's
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And I
Thank you.
adjourn the meeting. Thank
Thank
you very much.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Bye.